Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see you all. I think it's afternoon. It's almost afternoon. It feels like afternoon to me, even if it's morning. First, apologies for some visual puns that are going to be. These are really just to get your attention. Your job to work out what the title of the slide is. It'll be revealed pretty quickly because I've got to race through this first section to get to the good stuff that I know you're going to be interested in. I hope you're not disappointed because the good stuff is relatively tiny and very simple. But here we go. Anyone get that one? The Who. You'll get another chance, Andy. I'm not going to just delay. I'm just going to go straight through that. If you want to know who I am, look it up on the Engage You listings. I need to tell you a bit about the customer, who's called Infinity Foods. They are an organic foods wholesale warehouse, and they are cooperative. They were founded in 1971. By the way, this presentation will be available so that you can, which is why it's full of information. I'm probably going to repeat now a lot of it, but it's really because I'm going to race through it, and a lot of it probably won't go in. They've got a 24 million turnover a year, 70 members, 6,000 lines of stock, which is made up from own brand mixes from bulk. That means that they buy stuff in, for example, raisins and something else, raisins and nuts, and they mix it on premises to their own size. They have an associated shop which has its own branded products, which they also distribute, and they have other branded products from other providers. And every day they collate about 5,000 lines. So that's a lot of picking to be done. And unlike somewhere like Amazon, that is multiple objects that they're picking. They're not just picking one or two things to go in a box. Your next trial. Anyone know who that is? James Watt. So what are we doing? First of all, what's the setup? There's a FileMaker solution on the premises, which is run on an on-premise server, or more than one on-premise server. And it has been developed by a team of what can only be described as originally citizen developers when I met them. They were running on Excel with a £1 million turnover. They're now running on FileMaker properly. I didn't do the development. I was initially brought in to start doing it. That was a very long time ago, and then for various reasons that stopped. And then they brought me back in to mentor them pretty much after they built this amazing solution. There's an in-house IT management team run by a guy I've known for many years. In fact, he and his partner sold me my first Mac, which is a 2CX. That gives you an idea how long ago that was. They've got a 10 gigabit fiber optic cable in the premises so that there's no problem with data transfer. They buy in bulk, and they buy in pre-packs, and I told you about that. They put the products into a racking system when they're packed, and then they're taken from racking to picking. So you can see the process. Bulk comes in, products come in, into the racking, and then into the picking. And they collate the goods using iPads. Now, that's been around for a long time, since they built the system. The delivery is primarily by their own fleet of lorries. They also use couriers where they can't get their lorries to deliver something or it's not practical, and also customers can collect. And again, that's important in this whole process. But primary deliveries are through the lorries, and the lorries will have pallets on them, and the pallets will have mixed orders, multiple orders, and they'll be going to similar but different places. The physical environment is a set of large warehouses. I said large warehouse, but actually there's about 4 of those that you can see. Come on. There's a pallet there, which is a typical pallet in the bottom picture you can see there. And on the right is goods in. That's the sort of way that bulk arrives, and they put their own label on it, which you see has got a QR code on it. And that is a view of the collation. So that's an iPad mounted onto forklift truck. And this is traditionally how they do it. They'd have an order on the forklift truck. They'd complete the order. The below picture is an after. Anyone? No? No volunteers? It's the Y Valley. So, why did we decide to use scanning, and more particularly text-to-speech? Primarily, scanning was decided to be used because we needed to reduce the number of returns that were going to customers. Customers would often say, receive things that they hadn't ordered because they'd been mispicked. Some customers are a bit free and easy with that, telling them that they got things that they hadn't got or hadn't got things that they should have got. And this is a big problem because not only do you have to get the right thing to the customer, if it's been delivered by a courier in particular, you have to arrange collection, bring it back. So there's a lot of admin associated with that and a lot of cost associated with that. So the idea was that this would produce more accuracy. It's a bit of a no-brainer, really. And the second problem was the soil association. Because they're an organic company, they need to have an organic certification. And the soil association would only give them an organic certification if they could trace back the source of any goods from the customer invoice back to its origins. And the side effect of that is it also helps with recalls. Because you don't have to recall everything before a certain date. You can just recall the particular lot number or whatever. To do that, they needed to record and capture information that changes all the time, from the pre-packs to the bulk, the best before end dates, the lot numbers, and the countries of origin. And on the side of that, this process allows you to have mixed batches on the shelf because you don't need, say, everything up to a certain date to be on the shelf. You can have whatever date on the shelf, but you can still find it by scanning the barcode. They already had ID scanning in place for people logging in and out so that people could log their time with the system, not to track them particularly, but because people are very fussy about it. But it was really so that people could register the time that they spent in the warehouse. And that was done using scanning of an ID, a barcode. At this point, bulk goods were already barcoded, as you saw with the QR code. And there's a potential for further, if this worked, extending it to goods in and putting away, so that the whole flow would be covered. And also there's potential to reduce the number of databases because more databases are required to handle it the old way without scanning. Anyone? Difficult one, that one. Challenges. So, first challenge was that at the time we started thinking about this, scanners would suppress the keypad on the iPad. And that was a problem because sometimes there needed to be manual entry and interaction with the order on the iPad. However, thankfully, that one went away on its own. So that's no longer an issue. Timing, that's always an issue because you have to deal with companies who update their product, put different barcodes on, and you need to make sure that the stuff that's racking is the same as the stuff in the picking in terms of getting stuff down. Identifying the barcode type. There are a lot of barcode types. And you will get packs with all sorts of different barcodes on. If you don't know what type of barcode it is, that's an issue. Customer barcodes, whole topic in themselves. I will mention them again in a minute. They need to be able to pack multiple orders at the same time because they have typically orders with 20 or 30 lines on them, or 20 or 30 items or numbers of things. And they can have several different orders on a single pallet. So a picker, to be efficient, or a collator, needs to be able to pick all those things at once, not order by order. And to do that properly, they need to choose what sort order they're doing it in because, again, although typically a typical sort order would be a zigzag up and down the aisle to collect the materials in the most efficient way. Yes?
Do you take questions?
Yeah, I'll do questions at the end if that's all right, unless it's a quick one.
It's just like when
They will have a specific place on the pallet for an individual order so that they know physically where it is. Another little problem is that collators get bored. They like to listen to music, and they like to do that through their headset. So how do you interrupt that? How do you deal with that? And you need to have your collators on side. They need to see some benefit from you getting them to scan the products. In terms of FileMaker, a single data source would be a problem, which would be common, which would be a product database with the code number on it. However, because of the packing operation and the soil association requirements, there are actually a number of databases. There's a whole packing database on its own. Just a very simple diagram there. I can probably, no, I can't scan that in. This is, if you see the packing database there, it's relating to product databases, customer orders, stock control, and supplier orders. So you need to have all those different systems in place for efficiency. See Wim's speech next door. But maybe we could get rid of at least one of those tables. Anyone? Yes. Well done. Prize for that man. So, you can have another quick one as a reward. What am I going to talk about? Barcodes. Oh, it's raised a laugh, thank God. This is a typical customer barcode. It's the sort of thing that you get on a pack from another supplier. And I don't know if, I hope you can see it well enough. There's, it tells you what it is. It's organic Moroccan mint green tea, and it tells you the size of the sachet. It gives you a best before end date, and it gives you a lot number. That's the L2180. And then underneath is a barcode. But that barcode is pretty useless because it is literally just an EAN number or a whatever, which is just a product code number. It doesn't encode the lot date or the best before end date. And that's typically what you get. This is the barcode that they've started affixing to the bulk that comes in, which is generated using an ID Automation HC39M font, which is usually free. And it's alphanumeric. The numbers down the side are alphanumeric. You don't need to put a correcting code in. Not going to go into that now. And it links to the stock control database so that they know how much stock they've got. And the best before end date you can see down the bottom there, and the lot number, which is the number that follows it, are encoded in the barcode. So you can retrieve those just by scanning them. Typically, on some of the bulk in, they get this sort of barcode, which is great. And this is their favorite sort of barcode. This is the GS128 barcode. It's a 1D barcode for those who know. I'm sure most of you know a 1D barcode is one that looks like this. 2D barcode's a QR code. I won't tell you what all the acronyms mean because I can't be bothered to, and they're in the notes if you need to. There's a description of what they are, and I'm not sure I can remember them all off the top of my head. But this is a particularly good one because it breaks down into sections. So the O1 section tells you what sort of GTIN code it is, which is basically a product code, and it can be a certain number of digits long. That says that's 14 digits. So the next 14 digits are the product code. I think I actually put this on the slide. Some of the elements are variable, some of them are non-variable. And it's always the same for a particular product. The second set of brackets, which in this case are the 15, tell you what type of date you've got, and we're looking for a best before end date. So that's the next 6 figures. And the third set of brackets tell you the batch or the lot number. So that's all encoded within the barcode, and that's what you'll get back when you scan it. It's also useful because on this particular label on top right there, the GTIN code is on its own. So that's just the product code on its own. So if you only want the product code, you can scan that. So as you can see, before we come on to this, there are a lot of things that you need to know when you're scanning a label, which makes life hard for the collators. And this is the sort of label that they're now putting on the barcodes for the goods that go out. They're putting a simple barcode at the top, which is one, they pay a one-off payment for a particular barcode for a particular stock line or a particular product. And that's just a simple 1D barcode, which contains the basic information. And then underneath, and it got some information in there. The 50 is the custom country, and the 2886 is the customer, as you see. And underneath is a QR code, which has got encoded all the information you want. And this is an alternative type of label that they use, containing exactly the same information. The QR codes are free because they generate them using a Google API. Thank you. I advise them to do that. When you're thinking about a scanner, you have to realize that a QR code needs a 2D scanner, which means a camera built into the scanner. So not only do you have to have a laser scanner, you have to have a camera scanner. Everything's in there, and this is what will eventually allow us to get rid of the packing record database by putting the information into the line record directly by scanning it. There's a lot of information in the barcode. Unfortunately, because of the scanning method used that's going to work in that environment, which is the Bluetooth HID mode, you don't pick that information up, which means that you can't use FileMaker's functions to say what the barcode is, which is quite annoying. So there's a carriage return on all scans to show that we've got the end of the scan, and it tends to be the default setting on the scanners, and that stops the mismatch of partial values, which could be a problem. And they use a hierarchy to identify the type. So they'll look at the barcode. It's a very clever piece of coding that was written by them. I haven't looked at it in great detail. But basically it says, if it's got this element, it's this type of scan. If it's not, it's this type of scan. Or maybe it needs, if you added a 0, would it make it this type of scan because nothing else works? So there's a lot of things like that going in to identify the type of the scan. And there's always a narrative stored to tell you everything that's been done with that scan. So if you want to debug it or troubleshoot, that's what you go and look at. It's not X-ray, it's a scan. So we're getting to the good stuff, I promise you. But before we do that, we have to just talk about the scanning devices. iPads, too slow. Most scanners now close or open the keyboard, as we mentioned before. We need it 1 and 2D capable, and those are the sorts of devices that we trialed. Left to right, you can see what they all are there. And in the end, we chose one that's not on there, actually, because I'm going to show you that in a second. But for goods in, where there's not the need to have frequent scanning, one of the socket mobile scanners is probably what will be used, because they only need to scan things occasionally, and that won't interfere with things. So whilst we're choosing scanners, no good having a USB scanner, we need a Bluetooth scanner. So this one on the right is what was not actually chosen, but similar to the one that was chosen. You can also do Lightning to USB converters, by the way, or Wi-Fi, but it's not great. So this is what is actually in use. It's a glove scanner. It can be worn handheld, doesn't get in the way of people carrying out their day-to-day duties. It's not too unbearable to wear. It does get a bit sweaty by the end of the day, but it's small, it's easy to wear. You activate it by pushing a button on the scanner, which is really quite easy. The material used is a false leather, because you can imagine in an organic co-op, there's lots of people who have ethical issues with leather. And it works out of the box, and it scans at the right range, which was decided to be about 2 to 30 centimeters from the object, and the Bluetooth range is 5 to 10 meters. But you've got to make sure there's no pallets in the way, no forklifts in the way, because that can be an issue. I talked about that. Just before we get on to the other stuff, some potential scanner issues. If you're scanning 2D scans, light is a big problem. If you've got strong light, casting shadows, it's quite hard. Bluetooth Wi-Fi interference, that's a problem. So the warehouse has been carefully set up with things in the right position, particularly Wi-Fi has been set up so it's going to work all the time where you park forklifts. Sight line of obstacles we've talked about. Scanner configuration. Luckily this one works out of the box. But if you choose another one, then you have to think about configuring it in the right way. Print quality. I said I'd come back to customer barcodes. That's a typical customer barcode, never going to scan. Just too broken up. The print quality is not good enough. And sometimes they choose really bad ink colours and put them on bad backgrounds. Light grey ink on a blue background, great. So that's what you've got to cope with. And what you see is not always what you get. Another problem with customers, they often don't realise how the barcode works, so they'll put a default value in for every single product. And although it'll look like it's a different number on it, because they've typed a number in it, what you're actually scanning is the same default code. So you have to cope with that. Duplicates, sometimes customers reuse barcodes for some reason, known only to themselves. Multiple codes. Formatting, yeah, you need to think about how the date's formatted and make sure you've got that in the right order. User stubbornness. Oh, I haven't scanned the wrong thing. I couldn't possibly have scanned the wrong thing. I'm a professional collator. Got to cope with it. And occasionally suppliers update the existing goods that you've got, so you have to have a way of dealing with that as well. So there are a lot of issues to deal with when you're thinking about introducing scanning. And I'm sorry I've rushed through those. There's more information in notes. I don't think the presentation on the drive at the moment's got the notes in it. I'll make sure that by the end of the conference it's got all the notes in it. He was called Colin. Late? Okay, sorry. Everything that comes in is an order. They come from the website mainly, but sometimes they're entered by hand, but they all end up in the FileMaker system and they're displayed on boards around the warehouse. So, on screens around the warehouse. So there's about half a dozen screens around the warehouse which have got all the orders in. They're color-coded so people can see what status they are, and they can see all the other important information such as what type of order they are. For example, a courier order or I forgot to put the timer on. Oh well, there you go. I'll start it now. How long have I got left? Not long. The collators assign themselves the order. They'll go to that screen. They'll say, right, I'm going to do that order, and that order. And basically get it into their iPad. And the priority order is carrier, delivery and collection. And again, they will then decide if they've taken one order, they'll get a one order list, they'll get a two order list. If it's a shared pallet list, for example, these little blue and yellow, can you see those blue and yellow squares? Those signify the position on the pallet of the order. So you can see that that's being picked to mostly go into position C on the pallet. And the other order will go into the other one. Or you can have a mixed pallet order with 3 or 4, up to 4 orders on the same pallet. So the collator is prompted for a code type. So it'll say you're looking for this particular, you're looking for the QR code, you're looking for the barcode on this product. Originally, when it was first done, this was without text-to-speech, that would show up on the iPad. And then you'd scan it. Scan value shows the value you're trying to match against, which gives the collator some feeling of control over what they're doing and reduces the I can't possibly have picked the wrong thing product situation. We talked about that. And there are 3 ways that you can scan. Almost there, honestly. You can scan against the header of the order. So that would tell you that, for example, you scanned a product that's on the order list, so the FileMaker routine will go and check against everything in the orders, see if there's a match, and then select the right line, highlight it, and say you've picked that. You can also scan against the line. So you just put your your cursor in that field, and you scan against that line. That's easier. It's a straight match. Or you can scan against the line with text-to-speech. Now, the text-to-speech was introduced to speed up the scanning and give some oral feedback to the collator. So it will say, right, okay, you've picked that now. Go to aisle 3, row 4, top shelf. We've got some of those. The amount of speech, I'm going to talk about this a little bit. This one wasn't actually a pun. Text-to-speech, the magic bit. It's very simple. It's just a piece of JavaScript, and you won't believe how easy it is in the web viewer. Luckily, I don't see Ian Jemison in the room because he gave me most of it. The important bit, demo. I'll see if this works. Oh, look at that. So basically, we've got, oh no, I have turned off the volume. How do I turn the volume back on again? There we go. You might want that. So it's made up of various fields. This is the original proof of concept file that I gave to the customer. And they wanted to be able to put in various parts of text. I'm going to say something here for engage. You'll see how it handles that. So as soon as you exit the field, hopefully.
Hey, why not pick yourself 21 big fat FM bug widgets from the top shelf on the right for Engaju?
I don't know if you could hear that. Engaju. We're now at Engaju. Welcome to Engaju. I could probably make that slightly better by putting in engage -u. Just fake it. Okay.
Hey, why not pick yourself 21 big fat FM bug widgets from the top shelf on the right for Engaju?
Not much better. That was one of the issues, is actually getting it to speak what you want to speak correctly. There are various settings that you can use. You can change the rate. I'm just going to make this a lot shorter so that we're not here forever.
Hey, why not pick yourself 21 big fat FM bug widgets? Hey, why not pick yourself 21 big fat FM bug widgets? Hey, why not pick yourself 21 big fat FM bug widgets?
All those things change and they work on the iPad and on the Mac. However, if you change the region, you'll get...
Why not pick yourself 21 big fat FM bug widgets?
You'll get different results on the iPad to the Mac. Don't ask me why, but you will. Just to give you a clue of how that actually works, what we're doing is we are loading this text object here, which is the JavaScript, which I went and found off the internet, didn't write it myself. That's basically, that is basically what runs the text-to-speech. Really nice, really simple, and I think a good example of going outside FileMaker to do something in FileMaker, incidentally. And here we've got placeholders that are replaced. So I'm actually looking at this particular thing. So if I change this, it would change what was spoken. So I'm just using get layout object attribute to get the text from there and put it into the web viewer. But before you do that, you have to load the web viewer with the actual function, which is pretty easy. And your web viewer can be...
Hey, why not pick yourself 21 big fat FM bug widgets?
I can't take that. I've got to put that back to normal. I really can't take it.
Why not pick yourself 21 big fat FM bug widgets? Hey, why not pick yourself 21 big fat FM bug widgets?
So you can see the principle of that. It's pretty easy to do. And that will work on the iPad. It will work on the desktop. I have no idea how it runs on Windows because we didn't try it because it's a Mac environment for this particular company, which is quite interesting. So they took that and they implemented it. And I'm going to return to the presentation and talk about some of the issues. It's not native in FileMaker. It's going outside FileMaker. Now, maybe that's an issue. Maybe it isn't. Christian will tell you that you can get Speak to work on the iOS with his plugin, I suspect. Can you not, Christian? Yeah. But we didn't want to use a plugin, I'm afraid. We use your Monkey Bread plugin for lots of things, but we didn't actually want to use it for this. They wanted it more native than that. It's difficult to interrupt. Once you set it off running, if you put all that speech in at once, it makes it difficult to interrupt. So what we did to get around that was we broke the speech into little sections. So you load the function once in the web viewer, and then you call the function multiple times with short pieces of speech, which can then run correctly. And that makes it easier to interrupt the whole process, because it's not the speech process you particularly want to interrupt, it's the FileMaker process of what you're doing with the results. Now, these things can be anything from, you idiot, you picked the wrong product, to go down there. And the length of speech that will be used varies enormously. It will be, if there's a long way to go down the aisle, there'll be a lot of speech. If it's not, there'll be a tiny bit of speech. If it's like, on your left, pick that one. And it allows you to interact directly with the collator in the process. 95% of the orders are one. So, again, you can take out the quantity. You just say, pick this, and the collator will assume it's one, scan it, put it on his pallet. Done. It's already on the next line item. But if not, it'll go and give him some feedback. He'll have to enter a quantity in the iPad. He'll have to actually pick more than one. He'll be told to do that, or she. I'm being terribly sexist here. And you can vary what's said. So there's a random phrase generation routine that we've built to pick different phrases so people don't get bored of hearing the same thing all the time. And that will be the result of the pick, as well as the where to go. I'm almost finished, I promise you. Got about 5 minutes for Q&A if I'm lucky, maybe 3, but ask me around afterwards. Reasons to be fearful gives you an idea of what's coming up. I'm going to try and race through these. Cost doesn't suit everyone, has to work to the user's advantage. Some people hate it, and it doesn't always work. 99.999% of the time it does work. Reasons to be cheerful. You can be confident that you've got an accurate scan, and that's the real benefit to the collator. They know that what they scanned is what's on the order, which is also good for ensuring that you don't spend too much money or have to do too many returns. It's time-saving, because sometimes you get a pack of arborio rice that looks exactly the same as another pack of arborio rice, but with a slightly different quantity, or another one from a different supplier that looks very similar. So you need to know which one you're picking. If you scan it, you know you've got the right one. You can adapt to other processes. All these things are fairly obvious. I'm not going to go through them because I want some time for Q&A if there is any. They basically say the same things. Ultimately, it helps profitability. And conclusion. Come on. There we go. It allowed us to conform to the Soil Association requirements so they could retain their soil, their organic certification. It gives some added value to the customers without the increased overhead. There are fewer errors and significant savings on return. Now, this one surprises us slightly. There's a slight increase in productivity. We'd expected a slight decrease in productivity. In other words, the number of items that could be scanned a day, because the collators are pretty damn good at what they do. So we're prepared to take a slight hit on it, but it was the other way around. It is more efficient for those collators that choose to use it. Another clear benefit to the collators, not only are they confident that they've got the product that they're meant to be getting, they've got a reduced interaction with the iPad, so they don't have to keep going back to the forklift, putting a product on, going back, finding out the next one, it's going back, getting it. They can do 3 or 4 things at once. But picking manually with a pen and paper is remarkably still the fastest thing to do. It slightly de-skills the collator. All these things are fairly obvious. There was a significant development cost. That's because there's a lot of experimentation in choosing the scanners and in writing the coding that did it and fiddling around with the JavaScript and the interruptions. In fact, we ended up using an insert from URL to stop scripts running because it's an option on there. It's about the only place you can stop scripts running. I think that's it. It's a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but I'm happy to talk about anyone about it during conference. Are there any quick questions and answers? I've got about 1 minute.